Hello, everybody. I'm Ginge Knoxville, and welcome to Jackatus.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
James requested this, so I did it. Now we do what we normally do on this show. I'm gonna mute it all because I have to retune. So give me just 1 second.
Yep. We have a very interesting guest with us this week.
And without further ado, can you hear this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, dude, he said the band. I was like, dude, I haven't played this song in years. So, yeah. I'm not wishing this on him because this is like We Die Young, but dude, Alice in Chains, man, that's my jam. And
All
without
right,
further ado,
let's get him in, Mr. Murph.
Hey,
Good morning,
thank you.
sir.
Morning,
All right,
morning.
Good morning.
All
I
right.
hope you like that one.
Oh yeah, I don't think Alice in Chains gets like not even the credit they should, but like not even credit at all. Like
Yeah, dude.
you never hear about them, man. They're
Mhm.
amazing.
They actually have. I'm really into watching like old live performances, and they have dude. Their MTV.
Yeah, the
it's like,
unplugged.
woo,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
that is fantastic.
That was
Yeah.
fire.
Man.
Very cool.
What's up, Ian?
Alrighty. Yep, we got Ian with us this morning. Thanks for coming by, buddy. Very good. All right, Mr. Murph.
All right.
So, man, let's sort of take it from the top, buddy.
Mhm.
Sure.
You know, how long have you been a writer?
I think kind of all my life. I could draw before I could like read or write. I could draw cartoons. But with drawing, I always got frustrated with it. And writing felt, I don't want to say easier. It felt more freeing and not as frustrating. Because when you draw your own stuff, you can always see it. And so I was that type of person. If I would draw something, gonna go back, change something, never happy with it. So I haven't drawn in years. But the writing was something that was so much more enjoyable. It was freer, faster, I would say. When you get stuff down on paper, whatever you're thinking you get it, we're drawing, it can take forever. It was just always too slow for me. So I'd say, since I was a little kid, I would even write my own stories of the cartoons I liked. The first comic books I ever gotten into was the Ninja Turtles, but not the Eastman ones, the adventure that were based off the cartoons because I didn't know.
Yeah.
But
Very
but
nice.
then the Eastman, and then I became a real comic book reader when my uncle showed me the world of the X-Men. And
Oh, awesome.
till this day, I still think the X-Men is the greatest stories ever. If the MCU does them justice, I think they'll do double what the Avengers movies ever did.
Yeah.
I think the characters are so much better. So I'm just waiting for that. And when I really started writing, especially this book, I didn't intend it to be a comic book. It actually kind of just became novels that I started reading after watching Lord of the Rings. After seeing Fellowship, man, it was just so well done. And I loved it so much. And I felt like there wasn't really a lot of fantasy out there when I was searching. Game of Thrones was out there, but I don't know. There was just too many people and too many things. It was hard to follow, and so I didn't really get into it. It didn't hit me. So I just started writing my own stuff. And then my illustrator, who's my friend that I met at work, he's the one that kind of really motivated to turn it into a comic book, because I don't think I'd ever actually get like the novels completely done. It was more of just something fun. And if I watched a movie or a TV show, especially if I was ever let down by something, I would think, oh, this would have done better. And then I would kind of write about it myself and go with it. Get a frustration out of a show or TV, ever. I only get frustrated when something like takes me out of a show, when it's something like ridiculous, like there's one of the Ocean's 8 or 11, Ocean's 11. There's one of them where Matt Damon, they get Julia Roberts to pretend she's Julia Roberts. And that totally took me out of the movie, because I'm like, well, Matt Damon doesn't look like Matt Damon. So stupid stuff like that. Or like The Walking Dead. Someone will trip and then they get eaten by a zombie, which they've been smart forever. And so things like that would get me to write. And things would just piss me off. Like, who's writing this stuff? Who's coming up with these things?
That's a great motivation, man. Like, like watching things seeing things that will jar us, and turn it into fuel. In I don't know, use that creativity as an outlet. It's way better. That become like, I don't know. I just remember that, and I'm not saying I'm not comparing you to him, but remember that movie with De Niro and Wesley Snipes when he was like a super fan.
Yeah. With he was like supposed to be kind of like Barry Bonds, wasn't he?
Yeah. So I just remember that, like, a fan getting mad at like his object of worship, which was this baseball player, and like the whole scene with like throwing the knife like a baseball. Like, I don't know. I just started to like, because I do get frustrated. Like Book of Boba Fett, like, make me angry to no end. But like I don't want to like throw a knife at John Favreau, but like using that fuel, because the anger is real. Because these are things you grow up with, and these are things you hold dear, and then you see them destroyed. It's like, okay, I'm gonna make my own. So I think this is the best way to just like let that anger, because I don't know. Some people try to deny it.
Yeah, it does get it. I just hate too when things are like stupid. Like even with the new I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but the new ones where they had another Death Star, that took me right out of the movie, being like, wait a minute, a third Death Star? We can't think of anything else. That's the only thing this universe is gonna have. Like,
I kind of agree with that. I remember catching The Force Awakens in theaters and just basically thinking the same thing. I was like, I hated that movie. Like, I loved the opening scene. I thought it was cool.
Yeah,
Kylo.
that was really cool. Yeah,
right. And then it's pretty much downhill from there.
But enough about that, because we're not here to talk about corporate corporate products.
You could call it corporate fan fiction. I think. I thought.
We're here to just highlight this awesome dude here that has an awesome looking book. I haven't read it, so I can say it's awesome, but it looks awesome. I love the premise. You're taking a lot of notes from history and just like heroes of old, and turning into this like assembled team thing. I'm completely stoked, and I'm definitely going to read it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. I've always loved mythology as well. Everyone knows, about Greek and Roman. Like, we've all had how many different Hercules. There's been Troy. That movie was very successful. So I do think people have always been in it. Hail Oliver. So, and to me, I just kind of fell into finding out that there was more mythology than that. Like, I knew about the Vikings and the Norse, but then falling into like all the Middle Eastern stuff. I'm Irish. Like, I didn't realize the Celtic had their whole, they have this. I mean, there's so much of it, and so much of it has common threads. It's almost crazy that someone hasn't put it all together, because you know what I mean? And so, and of course, we're putting our own stuff in it too. There's characters that will just be, purely from our imagination, or a hodgepodge of characters that me or Derek both love. But it's there's a lot of hard work that doesn't have to be done, because there's so much out there. If we ever don't have a creative idea, we could lean heavily on any of the mythologies that are out there. I mean, there's you know, it's not like Cliff Notes. There's deep, and again, most of these were religions at one time. Like Zeus was worshipped by the world, you know, for a time.
Yeah.
So it's so
Yeah, dude, like people don't understand that Jupiter Capitolinus was Zeus, and that was Rome. But then you have like the Assyrians have their version of it, and then you have like Carthage have their own pantheon, and they were very parallel one to another.
yeah,
so.
oh yeah, Egyptian, yeah, they're all yeah, and they're very cool too. That's another thing. None of them suck. Like none of them are boring.
Yeah.
There's some pretty cool stories. Like there's and there's a lot that no one's like even heard of. Like you can like there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's and I enjoy it. So it's you know, I hopefully we mix stuff enough where it does. We are trying to make things though make sense. Like we're trying to make it more serious, more mythology and supernatural than fantasy.
Okay.
So when there are things, we're trying to make it make sense. Like we're going to have reasons why the pyramids were made, how they were made, why they were made. The same thing with the Great Wall of China. You know what was going on back then, that all these things had going on, and so. Like again, there's a lot of cool things that we can go on, and with it being before the flood, we can make these kingdoms and stuff and say they don't exist anymore because they fell in the water or were taken over, or you know, different things like that. So it gives us free will with, you know, other than the 7 wonders of the world, nothing else really handcuffs us.
Yeah, exactly. So wow, so we're talking a pre antediluvian world.
Yep, pre-floods.
Like a Pangea, kind of like one continent. Wow, dude, this is awesome.
And
yeah,
you know, we did that again because then when you say the continents break, that even some of the land falls in, like Atlantis. We'll have Atlantis in it too.
Awesome.
But also, it makes it easier from a writing standpoint that you don't have to write like, oh, it took 15 days to get this kingdom to that kingdom. Making everything closer, I feel makes it easier on us and story-wise. And even why these characters, as the story goes, why other kingdoms would get involved and why, you know, they would be going different places because the world's much closer than, you know, having oceans in between places.
Yeah. Dude, and actually it makes this is me on my mind racing. Like it would make sense that all religions of the world have common denominators if all the heroes are represented differently in different, you know, like different countries. So, dude, awesome job, dude.
And what's crazy too, like there are like weird things, like not just that you have the same type of pyramids built the same way, but the Egyptian pyramids actually have a wall that they know from however they test things that is actually a wall from the Mayan pyramid. So it's almost like they had a connection, and it's like, well, how we're taught about history, there's no way either of them are getting back and forth talking or anything like that. So it's like, what is? There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense, and so hopefully in an entertainment way and not a cheesy way, and maybe a way to get people to think, they'd be like, oh, okay, maybe this makes sense why these things happen, why the world was closer than what we're taught.
Exactly. Like the thing is, like, I like that the theme, even though you're basing it on history and investigation or whatnot, it's not really like it's not like an essay for college. Like it's trying to be entertaining. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So just planting the seed of making people think about these things in an entertainment way, I think you're doing God's labor here, man. So awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, and there'll be other things we're going to do. I don't want to talk. I can't talk because the Celestials, they're not like a gimmick or like Game of Thrones Winter is Coming. They're going to be fully fledged out characters and what they do, what they can do, how their world kind of works. We'll be in the story, but as of right now, like in the first book, they're there, but they're in like the background right now because we have so many of the, so many characters to kind of build up. But they will slowly go in, and they have there's a whole thing to them too, and they kind of help out make the world make more sense back then as well. So I think people will enjoy the Celestials. It's a hodgepodge of ideas, and and some things that I've just kind of made up, honestly. But hopefully it's not too out there that people could be like, maybe okay. Maybe.
I mean, I think it's your job as a writer to make things up. So no harm, no foul here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely love the art, and just so I understand, are these all sort of prior characters throughout different mythology, or did you create some of these?
No, these are
yourself?
these are characters that we're just making up. I feel like I guess at first, Mayor, I was going to make him like a Thor, kind of like a Celtic Thor, but then I thought, I'd much rather be free with stuff, and we can always then say, oh, this character and that character made like a hodgepodge of people, believing things instead of forcing it towards anything. So no, these are more characters that are built up, that if you like read the first book, or even if you read like we were at comic number 10 or 20, none of them where you'd be like, oh, this is definitely Hercules or this is Loki or no, it's nothing. No, these aren't demigods. They're complete human beings that are just living in that time.
How many pages is the book?
So it's 30 pages.
Okay, awesome.
Boom.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very nice.
So yeah, this is kind of like the first act of a 3-act part. There's a lot of action in this, some world building. You get a lot of the relationships with them, and what is nice about this time history too is when you're making these characters, how they fight would be a big part of their personality.
Yeah.
Because they are warriors. It's kind of their full-time job. So even their weapons kind of reflect who they are. Chim. That's pretty funny.
Chimney, chiru.
Dude, it's chimney. That's what they're.
Yeah, Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. That got me thinking about that. Totally took me off my chair because I'm picturing Dick Van Dyke dancing on the rooftops now. With with the brooms. It's funny. It's funny how your brain remembers that. I don't remember anything in school, but I remember that. It's fully in my head. But yeah, kind of going back to the characters. So, for instance, there is backstories to where this takes place. So this is kind of 2 generations from a big world war that happened where there was this evil force that came that mankind had to come together. Mare, who I guess you call our main character, at least for the first book. Our book's always going to be more team books because I always loved Ninja Turtles and the X-Men. So each character will be as important. But so Mare's grandfathers were 2 of the big, champions of men who kind of took down that evil force. So when he left his hometown, he was just going from like country to kingdom to tribe, trying to get rid of anything that was left over. And that's what they're doing here with this beast. And something happens here. They get a revelation that kind of changes everything they're doing and kind of forces them to go back to his home, where they intercept a second evil group. That's just a group that are like terrorists that like to burn down kingdoms because they believe humans shouldn't be in boxes. We should be living out in the woods, just like all the animals and everything. So,
so they're prehistoric hippies.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay. I hate them already.
Yeah. Well, it's. I think no matter what time frame, you have certain beliefs that have always existed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think those. Even though with politics, I think the politics we have today are something that you had, 200 years ago. I don't think there's that many belief systems out there that have changed through time. There's probably 5 to 10 real core beliefs that any culture has, and then kind of go with that. So, and that's a big thing with the book too, because we really want to get every culture in this. You're going to have a lot of things where it comes to why cultures don't like each other, some racism in it. But with Mare, with what he was doing, he's kind of one of my favorite characters, Wolverine. I always loved how Wolverine had this where wherever they were, someone would know him. Whether they didn't know him as Wolverine, they know him as Patch or Logan. I kind of put that on Mare, where he's battled so many places. If they go to a country that the other 4 have never been, someone will still know him because he's fought with someone who's been there. And so these 4 have kind of stayed with him for different reasons why they've stayed with him, but they've stayed with him doing this kind of campaign that he has, and they've kind of come a family over this time. So you can even see here how there's different cultures between the friends, because I think that's one of the coolest things when you really do get to cultures. It's again the X-Men. That's to me, that was always, they were, being a mutant brought them together, no matter how their backgrounds were different, and this, their kind of goal, their beliefs bring them together, even though they've all grown up different, lived in a different land, had different resources, had different beliefs. Because even some of their beliefs clash. Like that one page down where you saw Mare and then the guy with the big animal jawbone. They're arguing because of a belief they have. Adelburn really believes in destiny and like the gods are in control, and Mare doesn't believe that, and they're talking about where they have to go next. Yeah, right here.
Okay.
Yeah, because they have 2 totally different beliefs.
Yeah, I have a question on that character. The guy that fights with the beast jaw, was that inspired by Samson?
I don't think intentionally. It could have been by accident. But because he's a beast master, that's kind of really where it came from. But I mean, they say if you want to be a good story writer, know your Bible, because there's so many stories from there. So
yeah,
I mean, me and Derek both, we both know all the Bible, so it wouldn't be surprising, but it wasn't intentional. But
it took me there right away. I was like, dude, this book looks, and I'm not saying you're not, it's just that it looks clever.
Thank you. I try to be clever.
Yeah.
I think I'm clever, but I really like myself, so you never know.
Yeah.
Clever girl.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, there you go. See? There's a clever gentleman over there too.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I mean, like it looks clever in the sense that you get hints of backstory. The panels have no words, but you see the weight in the character design and how they conduct themselves. Like, for example, like the hand on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Even the camera angle is telling you that this guy is pontificating to the other one. Just as I'm saying, like I'm just taking hints. I'm a filmmaker before being a comic book. Like I'm really a neophyte doing comic books. So I'm really interested in camera language. And dude, I'm seeing really, really good things here.
And again, that's not all me too. That's Derek. Hopefully he's watching, so he knows I'm putting him over. But what's really good, it's crazy thing. I'll tell something to Derek, and it's literally like he has a camera in my head. And he sees exactly what I mean. And he's had a lot to do even with the character development. Even though I had these stories, he does very well with the actual physical character design. Because I'll tell him, like Adelburn, I'm like, well, think of him kind of being from Russia if you take a country today. And, he's a beast master where he would trap beasts or kill beasts for kingdoms. That was his background. And, Derek's the interesting thing is the things that Derek he has a different background where he was into G.I. Joe and Conan. So we both have different influences, but both always really liked mythology. And when I got him into it, even he got me into some mythology that I really wasn't into as much, like the Middle Eastern stuff. He really went down into that and stuff that I really didn't know that much about, which there's some really cool things in there. Like genies were a real belief thing that they had, but not as witches. It was kind of, if you guys watch The Witcher on Netflix, you know how they had a genie, but they don't call them genies. They call them crap.
Was it Jinn? Did they call them?
Jinn.
And that's what the Middle East called them in their mythology. And they're kind of more like a demon type of thing. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was like a real thing that people believe. And so it's like
like the Middle East had. I read about this jinn called Mastima. which is like from Mesopotamia or would be Iraq today.
Yeah.
And dude, that's freaking scary, man. It's not like, oh, like grant your wishes. Like she will turn your body inside out. It's horrible
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Every
So.
every culture has its monsters, its
Mm-hmm.
beasts. They all have giants.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that we can kind of focus on and go on. And so yeah, the Jinn. Yeah,
The
that's
gym. Yeah.
so and that's really cool. There's a city of giants that everyone
Oh,
really
awesome.
believes in because historically it's talked about. So
Mm.
there's cool things we can do with that as well.
So I have a question here. You're definitely heavily influenced by team books. Could you talk about some of the just some of the complexities, some of the ins and outs of writing a good team book, in your opinion?
Oh boy. I mean I think like how the X-Men were, where like a comic where they're just on the beach is interesting because of their interactions. And you could see it where I think that's what really made the Avenger movies work really well, especially in the second one, where they're all just chilling, talking about trying to pick up Thor's hammer. Is that
Mm-hmm.
if you like the individuals, then you'll like how they feed off each other. And I think that's the stuff that really makes the team things work. Yeah, is it cool when Iron Man can shoot his lasers off of Cap's shield? Yeah, but do you need to see it in every movie? No, you much rather see how their dysfunction and then how they have forgiveness for one another and then how they do work together well. And I think that's what team books are great at. And I think that's why I like the team genre. Hey, Derek. Uh, and like, honestly, I feel like a single character is much harder to be done well. Like, I think Batman's great, and like Daredevil's great. They don't need other people, but like even Wolverine, I love his own series, but he's so much better with a team. He works off people better than just being by himself. So I feel like if you understand the characters and understand how they don't relate, makes a really good team. That the friction, and it doesn't have to be like a love triangle. It could be a friction because of a certain belief. Like even when you think of your friends or family, you don't believe everything, even like from a political standpoint, that they do. Whether you're both conservatives or both liberals or both
Mm-hmm.
libertarians, and there's things that would get you into arguments, get you into times where maybe you'd have a timeout with them, where you're not talking to your friend for a week because it's something that you just don't get along with. Because I think that's real. And so, to me, a
Yeah.
team big to work well is it's how they go against each other and then how they care. And I think what also helps is I feel like we're all able to, it's easier for us to sacrifice things for ourselves, especially heroes, than it is to make your friend sacrifice. So I feel like
Mm.
these characters go through harder things when they have to watch something happen to someone else. You know what I mean? Like The Walking Dead, the most terrible scene to watch was when they were all on their knees and you think they really were scared about themselves dying, but it was more than that because it's like, who? I'm either going to die today or I'm losing a friend. And I think those are the things that really like, oh man, like that just I think that's really what our humanity is based on. And I think that's what you can, for me, at least that's why I think Chris Claremont was so great. The X-Men could be eating breakfast. It was interesting because they would be pissed at how someone did something out in the field or someone said a remark about one of them not being as good. You know what I mean? And you have the whole comic just based off of that. Just having
So Murph, real quick, sorry to hop in there.
no,
We
it's
do got a
fine.
question for you though. Ian from Panama, I believe, one of Pedro's buddies.
He
Murph,
lives
what
in
do you think?
England. He lives in England, but he's from Panama. But I think he lives in England, so it's
Okay.
very international.
All right, we're a worldwide show. Hooray!
Yeah.
Yeah. So Murph, what do you think makes for a good team conflict that moves characters, stories, and plot along, without bogging the plot down in a swamp of melodrama?
I would say uh, untrust. When one doesn't trust another for whatever reason, I think that's one of the best ways to have a story. Like, for instance, going back to X-Men Gambit, not only was he mysterious was cool, a lot of them didn't trust him, even for a long time. There'd be specific X-Men that would never really trust him. And I thought that was always a great dynamic, even though he would prove himself. You know what I mean? Not only of our belief systems in like religion or politics, but our belief systems we have upon other people really reflect things too. Like there's certain things you would not trust an individual with forever, and that's kind of messed up, and that'll come out in action. So I would say that's probably one of the better is when you don't have trust.
Awesome. Another thing, how do you manage like page real estate when setting up? How do you manage page real estate when you're managing like several characters at the same time?
Oh, so usually I think of it like I think of it in movie scenes, and then I think of like if it would be a slow-mo, that would be what you would put in a trailer. And then usually, so I'll write that down in a script, give it to Derek, and then after he reads it and thinks about it, we'll get together and storyboard. And then the storyboard is really where it comes out. Because even though I might have a picture in my head that like I really want this guy doing this that way, there'll be times where like Derek's like, I don't think that's going to work. And if I'm stubborn about it or really think, I'll be like, well, Derek says he managed it for me. We'll put it down on paper. And then that's the best test of being like, damn it, this doesn't work. We got to figure something else out. It's just not, you know what I mean? That's even interesting with this is our standard cover. The idea really came from Derek. I gave him some cool covers to look at, but he really didn't like. He didn't like the angle of it, and every angle he showed me, I was fine with. But this was the angle of the characters that he was finally like, okay, I'm fine with it, because he didn't want a face, he didn't want it to the side. So sometimes it's things like that too, where if we're not, we'll look at other things and try to get. We go by the McFarlane rule: if it's sexy or if it's cool. Yeah. So if we don't feel it's that way, there's times where we'll just look, Google things and look for inspiration as well. But both of us have so much movie and comic book stories in our head. There's probably usually something we can think of being like, what's really cool, thinking about this when this scene happened like this. Oh, okay. Well, let's try to do something like that. Let's try to
you lucked out with Derek because he does have a very good cinematic eye. Right?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so kudos, Derek.
Well, even like the picture you shown with him and Adelburn arguing, I told him, I'm like, when I picture them running up the mountain, I'm thinking about Lord of the Rings in the winter before the ring. That's what was literally in my head. And he's like, and look what he came up with. So
it's the whole exchange of Boromir with Aragorn. Because Aragorn comes down the mountain to Boromir, who's the one who's acting like not.
Yeah, he's not giving the ring back right away.
Exactly. Yeah. See, even though Boromir is higher up top on the trail, you can see Aragorn as bigger because of the camera angles they chose. Because you can see like him gripping the sword.
Yeah.
But Boromir like a very really like invasive close up on his face as he's looking at the ring, like he looks like an idiot. So yeah, dude, camera placement is very important.
Well, and the funny thing with the Lord of the Rings, going back to it, I kind of hate that the Fellowship didn't stay together for the trilogy. I love them together. Like I understand why Tolkien did it, because you get more story with separating them. But the Fellowship, I love them all being together. And again, Boromir and Aragorn, they don't trust each other. There's a good, you get that. That's a very good angle. And then look where they end. How they end with each other is just amazing. The conversation as Boromir's dying.
And both of them have very like pure motivations. Even though they're going about it in completely different ways that antagonize each other. But dude, Boromir is all about Gondor and winning the world for Gondor. Aragorn has a more like wider scope, and he knows taking the ring to Gondor is a mistake, but Boromir doesn't see it that way. So it's not like good, like black and white at all. It's like, we're going about this in different ways, and we might cross swords over this. So it was very, very cool. Like, dude, and people sometimes say like, okay, writers like Tolkien or like Robert Jordan, like, oh, that's like, I don't know, like vanilla fantasy. Like, it's the beginning of everything. But if you go through those books, I'm a huge Wheel of Time fan. Even though the show on Amazon sucks, don't watch it. Please read the books. Even though they say like, okay, it's high fantasy and the magic is ridiculous, dude, read it because the archetype of the one, it's very, very, very well condensed. I mean, from book 1 to 3. Then from then on, like I don't know, like he didn't want to write anything else because having 14 books of a series is it's a lot. But then it picks up in book 6. So I don't know, like to me, Wheel of Time and Tolkien and Malice and Book of the Fallen. I don't know if you're familiar with
No,
that
I've
series.
never heard of that. No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fantasy reader, and those 3 series to me epitomize like the foundations of what fantasy is, and that's just talking to me, just talking about me. Like a lot of people might have different opinions,
Sure.
but yeah, exactly. What's up, Chris?
Good morning, Chris. Thanks for coming by, buddy.
Yeah, dude. And the thing is, like, with the scope of your story, and the dog approves with the. With the scope of your story, I'm seeing something like that, like a Game of Thrones, Wheel of Time, like huge world where a lot of stories can be told.
Yes.
Whether it be team or solo. So, dude, I'm very, I said it, this is the 3rd time I said I'm very excited for this project, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very, very excited.
Yeah, we are too. And actually, that's one of the more fun things, not just character building, but the world building, like going into the different cultures, why that culture survives, how they interact with the other kingdoms, or, not everything's in a castle. We'll have tribes, we'll have, people that do just live in the woods, that they don't want to, I think just like modern day, you still have people that don't want to be on the grid. I think even back then there's people who didn't want to be on the grid. Just let them live somewhere and fish all day and go back to their little home.
Dude, how would a prehistoric hoarder look like? That, you know what I mean? Because I mean, you just did a parallel to modern times, like people who want to live off grid. So maybe somebody like a hoarder or an Instagram thought. How would that look like in prehistoric times? Like, dude, it just sparked a lot of questions in my mind. Wow.
I think an Instagram person would be one of those people that would stay at either like an arena or at a play and just watch people be doing stuff like acting. They'd kind of be like watching shows. You know what I mean? Things like that during that time. Plays, maybe musicals. You had a bunch of. You'd always have music, so just sit around and play music with people.
Nice.
So, let me ask, how's the project going? Like, how far along are y'all? Is Derek still drawing, or is he coloring it as well? Or
no, Derek's not coloring. Dijo Lima is our colorist. How many pages we got? I think we're over 30% colored right now.
Awesome.
But all the pages are done. Derek draws and inks. It's still, we have it lettered, like we did it before getting a letterer, but we do have a letterer, so we have to send it once that's colored. We're telling people we're going to deliver it 6 months after the campaign, but it should be a lot sooner. We just put it that way just because we've heard so many horror stories with people shipping.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen? Like, there still can be a World War III that can change everything. Like, so, but hopefully we'll have it done very, very soon.
Okay, very cool. So you and Derek work together. You bumped into him at work. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dude, what a find right there. I mean, how long have y'all been working together? Is this y'all's first project? Like, what's the creative process like between you two?
Sure. Boy, I don't know how. We've probably been doing this for maybe like 5 years. Just because, like, even making the logo took such a long time. Just because things we wouldn't like, things we would go over. The pandemic didn't help anything either. We only live about 30 minutes away from each other. So, but usually the creative thing is, I'll write it down and let him kind of chew on it a bit. And then we meet and we do the storyboarding, which is so much fun. The storyboarding is really where we get the most of our work done. And sometimes even brand new ideas, just chilling together. And so it just took this long just because Oh boy, I mean, I was sick. I had some medical problems for a while that slowed us down, and so. But even before we were doing it, we would just chit chat about it because I would tell stuff. Oh yeah, Peter. So two of the covers, this cover and the wraparound cover, are done by Peter Palmiotti.
Palmiotti.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And but everything else is done by Derek. Yeah, that's everybody, right? Weathers will be doing our lettering when we give it off to him.
Very nice.
And so that's pretty much, yeah. Dejo, I found him on Facebook, and now he works for Marvel, DC, and Image. So hopefully we can keep him from here on out, because he really gets what we're going for. Even when I tell him like the time of day, he's really good about even getting like how the sun would change the color of how everything is going on. So
but I mean, by the way things are doing, working for big companies doesn't mean that much, or it doesn't mean what it meant a couple of years back. So I don't think you're going to lose him. So
hopefully he really likes it. So it's volatile. Maybe for him. Maybe for him. I very much enjoy it. It's very relaxing for me. It's he's got to do all the hard labor again. Like I began, it's much easier to write than it is to draw. So it's like
I like to see it. I like to see it in terms of what comes more naturally to you. Because, for example, to me, writing is a chore. Because everything I write, I'll say to myself, "Oh, that's stupid." So I have to fight that. That doesn't happen to me when I'm drawing, for example.
See, I'm the complete opposite. That's how I am with drawing. I'm like, I've had people be like, "Man, can I have that?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, take it. I hate how this came out."
Take it, yeah. I know the sentiment. Yeah.
So, but writing is so freeing to me. And what's great is, again, you could go back and change it, and it's so quick to change it, being like, if that doesn't work. And what's nice too is like I could talk to Derek about like, oh, I have this story idea. Like 10 books from now, I want this to happen to Mare. I don't have to draw anything or anything. I'd be like, hey, this is where I want it to go, and he'd even be like,
you're thinking that much ahead. So do you want to make this like an?
I had like 10 to 12 novels prepared. I'd say about 80% of all of them done. Awesome, I could easily do 100 comic books off of this story, where how things start, how things change, how the world changed, all the things that the Celestials do changes a lot of stuff. So yeah, there's tons. Honestly, time's awesome. the biggest barrier. Even crowdfunding, we're just hoping to get money to where we can bring in like a second illustrator to help so we can get this done quicker and get things more out.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. And you're well on your way. How far are you guys from funding? Or is that like a very...
We already funded. Yeah, we're already funded.
There you go.
Yeah, we funded...
Is this your first or second month?
Yeah, we're in our second month now. We're in our last 24 days. We did the 60 instead of the 230. Which I think that hurts. I think we probably should have done the 230, but hey, we're learning.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like this crowdfund world has a lot of like cues and notes you should take from. And dude, like it's true. Like people might say like, no, that's how I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. Like you do that at your own peril, because dude, like it's getting clear like what makes crowdfunding campaigns successful. I'm in the middle of one myself. And I've already seen the mistakes I've made that I'm gonna take into account for when I do my next one. I mean, we're doing okay, but things could have been done better. So yeah, dude, if you want to get into this world of crowdfunding, pay attention to what other people are doing. Be humble, ask questions, ask for help. Don't be a burden though. Don't be a burden, but ask for help, because people are more than willing to help you.
I feel like you don't even have to ask a lot. I feel like it's out there. Like Rob does all those YouTube videos, and like Dojo Coons has all the YouTubers out there, people to talk to kind of get onto shows.
Yeah.
So we're definitely happy for being rookies, never putting something out there, and we know too it builds upon, because when we go for our second book, we still have this that people then might want to buy it. They didn't want to buy it when the fur, and it kind of compounds as you keep going. So really, this is kind of all about the learning tree. We'll learn a lot when we start doing shipping and
that's
things like that too.
Oof. I mean, I'm not handling my shipping because I live in Central America, and doing that from there, like I'd rather like cut off my arm because, dude, it's hella expensive. Like I send the original artwork to Texas, and the shipping was like $119. So yeah, I'm letting RJ handle my shipping, but still, there are things that you need to know. Paper shortage. What kind of, if you use a Mixam, Mixam is gonna connect you because Mixam is not really a printer. It's like a middleman that will connect you to a printer. So which printer exactly are you using? As I said, like for example, RT Bear with Chrono Mechanics, the first printing was lost because it was like really dark, and it had to do with the printer that Mixam hooked him up with. So he had to find another printer. So there's a lot of things like know your same YKs, know how to level for printing. There's a lot of things that you keep in mind when that comes about. Like I don't have a printing background because I'm more of an animator, but I've worked in advertising for so long, like around 20 years, that I kind of know how to like level like CMYK and whatnot. So I'm not really afraid of that. But I really need to know which printer is going to handle my stuff and what books they've done, so I can set up my files properly. So that's our things to take into account, man.
So I have a question real quick. We've sort of talked about the sort of early history of the book and sort of the beginning of the story, but who is this guy? I'm getting some kind of creepy villainy vibes. Who are we looking at here?
Yeah, he's a villain. He's kind of in the background of this book. He's kind of he kind of motivates our heroes to kind of do something a little bit different. But he's kind of more in the background. You do get to see him. He's kind of this second force that's tracking them as they're going. So they kind of run into two different type of evil forces in this book alone. Because again, it's not like there's just this one, just like the heroes and countries and culture are different. You know, there's going to be different villains for different reasons and have their own different wills as well. And so this, you know, this guy and his group kind of puts Mayor and his crew in between a rock and a hard place, and they kind of don't get to make decisions how this first book. So they're kind of pushed into going back into his hometown, and what kind of then he's more of a catalyst because their group finds out something that changes what they are doing currently, and he finds out they know, and so that changes what he's doing too, and so he starts hunting them because he doesn't want that information to be out and about because it'll change a lot of cultures and countries what they would do. So it's kind of that so that's kind of that catalyst of then how they get into another scrum as they're going. But he's actually a big bad. He'll be more fleshed out. He'll only be a little bit in the second. He kind of has a big part in the third book, kind of like a big end fight. And I'd say he's kind of the saber-tooth to Mayor's Wolverine if I was going to compare it to anything. He's about 9 feet tall, so he's a giant. And again, this was kind of more of, this is how you start to see him, kind of this over thing. But as the book goes, you never get a good view of his face, but you'll get a good view of his body kind of as the book goes and how he gets closer and closer to them.
Very nice. So a question sort of came to mind here. You mentioned before the flood. Is there multiple gods for these various people? Do gods actually exist within this realm?
So there's definitely multiple gods for different cultures for who they worship. Are there gods in the story? You'll have to wait and see.
Damn you.
There's no answers to... Adelburn believes in gods. There's no answer to whether they exist or not in the first book. But do they exist? Maybe. if they do exist, do they exist the way we think? Could it be something else? Maybe there's something, but like I said, it's more mythology than it is fantasy. So mythology has gods, so there could be.
Alrighty, fair enough. I like it. Yeah, man, the project looks great. It's a really fun idea. A lot of the stuff that you were talking about at the start really resonated with me as well. I'm a writer, and growing up, I always wanted to be an artist, but it's pretty much the same thing. Like I would kind of just, you know, I draw a little bit now, but growing up, man, like I would just draw like a simple line, and if it wasn't like the way I liked it, I was like, all right, I'm done. Like I would just, but writing would always come very naturally, and I would get an idea about something and before I started writing, I would just sort of say, "Oh man, that'd make a really great idea. That would be cool." And yeah, it's been a really just pleasing journey, just scratching that itch. You know, whenever you get a good idea, just kind of seeing where it takes you.
Oh yeah, yeah. And to me too, I think writing is one of those things you can kind of just sit down and think about. Where like art, I think you're thinking about it more when you're doing it. Where I could just relax and kind of think about a story and just kind of get lost in my whole daydreaming myself. So
I think Chris has a good point here, though. Aliens. He's obviously doing the ancient aliens guy.
Yeah.
Is that a possibility within this realm? Are we going to see grays coming down?
no, okay. So the word alien just means they're not from wherever you're trying to be at. So is there green, gray, big-eyed men in this? No, there's nothing like that.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
there's nothing like other planet. There's no other planets or anything like that with spaceships or lasers or anything. No. No.
But maybe we'll see. No,
There might be some type of representation for that.
Yeah.
Or there might be answers to that ancient alien theory. Again, the Celestials. Who are they? What do they do? So.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it, a laser is a fire from God. So I wouldn't discard that. You know what I mean? Like,
well, again,
if you read the book of Enoch, how he described like spaceship, like it's a chariot that has fire underneath, like it's a freaking spaceship. Seen from the eyes from a guy who doesn't even see a car in his life. So,
well, in Indian mythology or religion, a book it's written like 5,000 years ago. There's this fire that lights the sky and it torches the whole forest. And anyone who lived near it, their hair and nails fell out. That sounds like a nuclear bomb.
Yes.
How do they even know about something like that with their hair and nails falling out?
Yeah.
So it's like, and they have like those flying type of things as well. So will we ever go to flight in our story? Maybe it's things I thought about right now. I would say a definite no, but again, things that I have planned, I'm willing to change. But again, I do want to kind of always hone it into keeping it more mythology, supernatural, religious type of things, and less like sci-fi. There's
I get you. I mean, you set up the tone of your story. We're just messing around here.
Yeah,
no, that's fine. I think the Ancient Aliens. I've watched it. I think it's very entertaining. And again, I believe that the reason we don't have answers is why that's opened up to that. Because again, how were the pyramids made? We're told they had hammer and nails. There's no freaking way they built that. And there's no machinery near the pyramids. Yeah. There's nothing near to tell us how they made it at all. Where they got the materials, miles and miles. So how did they even ship it? You see how they're cut? It looks like they're cut out with lasers. So like, what the hell happened? Hopefully we can answer all those questions in the Ballad of the Celestials.
Yes.
I like it. Very nice. All right. Well, honestly, on that note, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. We're about to hit an hour here. Oh, actually, real quick, I did want to ask you about your YouTube show.
Yes.
You and Derek have something going. Let me pull that up, actually.
Yeah, we're every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Murph and Dirk duke it out. We'll talk about mythology, music. We try to stay away from pop culture, but every now and again, like when the Punisher stuff was happening, we did kind of talk about that because we do like to talk about like character studies. And a lot of times we'll just talk about if the chat brings up something. Our chat's usually really good about talking about something that'll change everything that we had in mind to doing. We usually try to get guests on to promote other people's stuff too. So
very nice. You got 161 subscribers. So
yes.
if
Awesome.
I'm not sure if there's any mods in my chat here, but if actually I think I'll just do it myself here. Y'all go ahead and head on
Do we
over.
have mods, Ginge?
Yeah, we got
That's
mods.
news to me.
Just handing it out to anybody that wants it.
Oh, and so what I don't want to forget, even though I hate it when I can't think of it. We're at our first stretch goal. We have a $3,000 stretch goal. We actually have the picture back on our page. Is we have a metal card of Mayor in his armor, and the cards. We're actually going to make a card game down the road. Cards have some influence in our world, and so hopefully people can kind of play the game like it is in the story as we go down with it. And it's metal because it is an armor card. That it means that your hero's got his weapon stuff on. So hopefully we can get to 3,000 to get that metal trading card out to everybody.
Awesome, dude. That sounds amazing. Yeah,
absolutely. And Derek, it was great having Murph on.
It was an honor, man.
Yeah, if both of y'all are welcome to come on at any point. So anytime y'all have anything to promote, please come on back.
Yeah.
And so Murph, I'm gonna go ahead and bump you to the back, buddy, and we'll wrap this thing up here. Thank you for joining us.
Thing.
Alrighty. Yep.
Alrighty.
Okay. Great episode today, gang. I want to thank the chat.
Awesome.
This was honestly one of our more busier chats. So Murphy, bring in the crowd. Thank you, buddy.
Bring in the heat.
I like it. Next week we have Neostar Productions coming by to talk Riser Man. So this dude's sure to bring an awesome intro. He's got the best intros in the business. And on that note, we will catch y'all next week on the Ginge and Pedro show.
Back Tropical Magics.